Hello there, fellow cultists. This is DM Nell, and I'm back with another Shadow Talk. This is episode number 155, and today I'll be going over I'm thinking it's the first big supplement for Shadow the Weird Wizard, and that is Weird Ancestries. But before we get into that, let's talk about some of the other um, offerings that Schwab Entertainment has been throwing our way. So looking here at the Schwab Entertainment website, we can see that there's a few things. We've talked about these last time. So let's talk about this Orc Wars. So this is Orc Wars Break These Chains, a Black Star supplement and starting adventure. And let's take a look at what this entails. Keep in mind I have this, and I have all these things. I just haven't read them yet. Um, I'm not playing Shadow the Demon Lord right now, so um, I don't really have a whole lot of incentive to read through supplementary material unless I get bored, and I'm too busy for that right now. So anyway, Orc Wars, break these chains, not change, break these chains. Embark on a perilous journey through a world ravaged by war. So Orc Wars Break These Chains is the start of a thrilling campaign that picks up right after the Orc Rebellion in Caicris. Follow the rise of Drudge, the Demon Lord's puppet, as he seeks revenge on his enemies. A world on the brink. Over 11 adventures, you'll witness the Orcs' corruption by the Eternal Darkness and their potential downfall. Every choice you make, every victory and defeat will shape the fate of this world. Break these chains. Your adventure begins as a prisoner trapped in a dungeon beneath Caicris. Survival is your top priority. Forge alliances, battle monsters, and escape horrors to find your way to freedom. The choice is yours. Will you break free from the chains of captivity or perish in the depths of this hellhole? And this is interesting because I actually, I think it was my second campaign for Shadow the Demon Lord, had a scenario similar to this. They weren't in the characters were not in a prison, but they were definitely in Caicris at the time of the Orc uprising, and they had to find a way to escape. That was pretty fun. Okay, so Orc Wars Break These Chains. This actually sounds pretty good. I've not been the biggest fan of the Black Star supplements. But this actually sounds like it would be a pretty good adventure to run through. So I'm going to have to read through this more closely and, yeah, see where this goes. All right, so that was the first item. So the second item to cover here, Serpent in the Hen House, a master quest for Weird Wizard. Alrighty then, so this one is a terror, or a town's petrifying terror. In Serpent in the Hen House, a small town is plagued by disappearances and mysterious statues, and a group of adventurers must uncover the truth behind a terrifying menace lurking in the region. As fear grips the community, they discover a sinister force is turning people to stone. Can they unravel the mystery and stop the terror before it's too late? Now, I think this is the first actual master tier quest for Shadow the Weird Wizard. I could be wrong, but I believe it's the first one. And again, I have not read through it, but from the looks of the cover, either the villain is a cockatrice, which I seriously doubt, or it's probably a Medusa or Gorgon or whatever it's called in this game. So there you go. Those are the newest offerings for Schwab Entertainment. And let's take a look what's going on in the Kickstarter campaign. So here we are, my Kickstarter page for Shadow the Weird Wizard. And we have production update 16. Now, as of the last production update, Mr. Schwab shared that he was not feeling very well. He was dealing with some sort of ailment. And so, yeah, that was going to slow him down on a few things, obviously. But I do wish that, or hope that Mr. Schwab has recovered, or is at least on the road to recovery. Okay, but let's see what the Schwabster put as a production update. Okay, so fulfillment's underway. We hit a snag on the deluxe books, but should have that resolved next week, and books going out the week after. He apologizes for the delay. Let's see here. Da, 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 da. Okay, so there's a snafu with at least one of the playtesters being left off the list, so he wants to make amends here by um, ensuring that that person gets a certificate that he can put in his book that's signed by Schwab, and maybe a little something else as well. But he also says if you were left off, to reach out to him at his email, which is listed in here. Let's see here. Upcoming releases. We just dropped Serpent and Hen House, which we just talked about. Next releases, November 4th, is the Glory of the High One. So it looks like we're focusing on the Church of the High One. The Seventh Sun Quest is also being released in November on the 11th. And then finally, print on demands. He's hoping to have Weird Ancestries print on demand ready by the end of the year, which is good because I need that. I don't dig on just digital copies of books that I will use frequently, and I have a feeling I would be using, well, I'm already using the PDF frequently, so I would definitely like to have a print on demand version, and glad to hear that it is probably going to happen by the end of the year. Alrighty then. So that is. Oh, wait a second. We talked about U.S. fulfillment underway, and lo and behold, fulfillment has arrived. At least here. So here are my two books. See. I'll see if you can see it. Yeah, there you go. Okay, these are my two books, physical books, and they're gorgeous. Love the color scheme. Lots of grays and purples and browns. The interior, very, very nice, very glossy. Looking like the binding is stitched. I'm not a book expert, so I couldn't tell you if that means that the pages aren't going to fall out, but I think it means that it's a pretty good binding. So yeah, both books, and nice to actually physically hold them. Like I said, I need to have physical books. I can use PDFs for things like, well, recording these videos and showing you stuff, or copying and pasting into my my Foundry account, or the Shadow of the Weird Wizard and Shadow of the Demon Lord Foundry pages that I have. But yeah, I need the physical books. You can't go to the toilet with a PDF. Well, you can on your iPad, but anyway, the book is better, right? Okay. So got my books. Pretty excited about that, and so you guys should probably be in the process of getting your books if you back the Kickstarter and order the books. All right. So that is about it as far as stuff happening, right? And oh, looks like I forgot to put my topics up on the thing Dewey. Well, maybe I can still do that before. Actually, let me do it right now. Okay, this will take just a moment, folks, so just bear with me here, because I need to make this pretty for the viewing audience. Nope, not going to be there. Okay, so actually I can talk about what's coming up. So what is coming up is the main topic, which is the main topic is Weird Ancestries. Man, can I think today? Can I form a coherent thought and get it out of my freaking mouth hole? I don't know. All right. So anyway, I've got. Okay, yeah, no, for some reason I am not together today. So anyway, the usual little thingy on my video that has the topics is not there. So if I can fix it before we're done, I will fix it. Otherwise, you'll have to do without. All right, so Weird Ancestries. Let's talk. Here we go. I've been looking through this more closely because, as you know, I have a Shadow of the Weird Wizard campaign going. I've just completed the novice tier. I'll talk about that in my next video. But I've been having to refer to this frequently because two of my players are playing Ancestries from this book. And so I've had to refer to it a few times, but actually this weekend was the first chance I've had to actually sit down and read through it. And, you know, there are 30 ancestries presented in this book, and Schwab had only intended, or at least announced, that he was going to give us 20 at the time of the Kickstarter. So we got an extra 10 ancestries, which, you know, awesome. More content is always great. And you know, the book kind of organizes them in alphabetical order, as you do. And the first one starts with Archon. Now, each ancestry has a 2-page spread in this book. And the first portion is like background, appearances, and stuff like that. The second page focuses on the actual traits. And it presents the ancestry as a novice path as well. Okay, so the first one is Archon. So I wasn't really sure what an Archon is. I know what an Archon is in D&D, but what is it in Shadow of the Weird Wizard? Well, basically it is an angel that was cast out of paradise. So they clipped their wings and threw them onto the mortal world for reasons. And so as a result, you are walking the world basically trying to find a purpose. So kind of interesting, kind of cool. I mean, it's got a little bit of a what was that movie? It had Michael the Archangel in it and Gabriel, and they fought. And I forget. The Vision was Michael. But anyway, whatever that movie was called, has that kind of vibe to it, I guess. But yeah, so that is one ancestry that you can play. And you know, when I went through this book, I tried to go through, at least mentally, and yesterday I started to jot this down a little bit. But I tried to figure out, you know, how prevalent are these ancestries in any portion of the world? Do they have a homeland? Do they congregate at all? Or are these wanderers, you know, people that, you know, don't really have a community or a place that they can call their people's home, right? Or at least if they do have it, they are, you know, outcast from it. And so, you know, I tried to make a mental note, and like I said, I started jotting it down yesterday on these ancestries, and you know, just kind of categorizing them in my brain for reasons of you know, just being able to populate the borderlands appropriately. And what I hate is you know, having all these ancestries, but I have no idea where they're from. I have no idea if they have cities or towns. I have no idea if they are organized at all, or if they're just a you know, a loose connection or a loose collection of people that are different than others. And so, you know, again, with these, it's just, you know, what I do in my brain to organize things. So I came up with, I think, 4 categories, 1, 2, 3, yeah, 4 categories. So, and I may revise these, but the first category is wanderers. These are ancestries that don't have an active homeland. They tend to be either solitary, nomadic, and or gathered in tribes. So an example of that would be the Archon. The Archon didn't really have a homeland. Actually, the Archon is probably more of an outcast. So I'm going to change my note there. But anyway, because they do have a home, and that home is paradise, but they were cast out of paradise for whatever reason. So, you're not going to find generally a collection of Archon unless, a bunch of them were cast out all at once, and maybe they travel together, or maybe they set up a community or something like that. But, most of the Archons you're going to find are going to be solitary people here that are wandering the land, basically. The second category I came up with were civilized ancestries, and those are the ones that have a place to call home, a homeland. Other places places where others of their kind congregate in significant numbers. So a village, a town, a city, regions even. So humans would have full regions, right? Humans being the default ancestry here, they're everywhere. So humans are pretty much just you can't throw a rock without hitting a human. But the rest of these ancestries, they need to be classified a little bit better than the book does it. Okay, so that's Archon. Oh, sorry, I was going through my categories. Okay, so civilized, integrated ancestries are those that don't have their own homeland but can fit into another ancestry's homeland due to similarities in appearance, without anyone in that other ancestry being aware that they are different or caring that they are different. So, an example of an integrated ancestry might be Hobgoblins in Shadow of the Weird Wizard, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, or Dampiers, or not Dampiers, sorry, that wrong. I meant Dragonets. Dragonets are tend to integrate into human societies for their own reasons. Anyway, so yeah, Archons would be outcasts, and let's see. So I have an outcast was the last category. So again, that was wanderer, civilized, integrated, and outcast. So somebody that is obviously in a civilized ancestry could become an outcast. As an individual, so any human could be obviously outcast from their home, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about ancestries as a category. So Archon is a category of an ancestry, and so being outcast from paradise, they would fit best under outcast. Okay, anyway, that's just for me. You probably couldn't care less about that. All right, so what's next? We have Archon, and we go to Cambian. So a Cambian is Shadow of the Weird Wizard's version of the Tiefling. So it's basically a human that is hybrid human and some sort of demonic or infernal entity, be it a demon or a devil or whatever the case is. So this is a child born of that type of union. So they have appearances that are a little frightening to most people. Probably horns of some sort. Reddish skin. Hellboy, basically. But looking at the tieflings of Dungeons and Dragons, that's pretty much the same appearance that these descriptions here evoke. All right, so it goes into what Cambians are, how they came to be. Interesting backstory here. I'm not going to go through it, but you're welcome to read through it. Okay, so then we have the Cambian traits, and if you want to take a Cambian as a novice path, then it gives you information on how to do that. Now the book does go at the beginning in the foreword does state that just because you take an ancestry as a novice path, that's not making the character more of that ancestry. Basically, it's more of this character is specializing in different aspects of the things that their ancestries are good at. Doesn't necessarily make them more Cambian than Cambian, right? Or more dwarf than dwarf, or more human than human. A little call out there to Rob Zombie. So yeah, here we go. Cambian, all the goodness there. Then we have Centaur. Now Centaur is also an ancestry that was in Shadow of the Demon Lord. I never really presented it there to my players because personally I think that Centaur characters are problematic for reasons of basically they're half horse. I mean, come on. Sometimes a horse is just not very practical in certain scenarios, right? Certain settings. Climbing up a tower in a tight staircase, yeah, Centaur's not going to do that. I don't know. It's difficult for me. But it's here. If you guys enjoy that sort of thing, go for it. It does describe the Centaur being nomadic. They have tribes. They worship ancestral spirits and lots of good Centaur goodness in here. And then of course the novice paths if you choose to be focusing on that. And each section, I forgot to mention this, each section talks about how they kind of work as adventurers in the game. So here's a Centaur entry for Fighter, which says hunters and warriors comprise a large portion of Centaur herds. Your experiences as either could point you towards the fighter path, which allows you to take advantage of your quickness and durability. And then, so on and so forth. So, and then it kind of talks about the quadruped life down here, kind of what I was alluding to earlier. Your physique makes some tasks hard, if not impossible. Attempts to climb sheer surfaces, cross perfectly narrow surfaces, and fit through low ceiling openings lay beyond your ability. Let common sense be your guide. If you attempt something that seems impossible for a horse to do, you can't do it either. So this basically says don't give your DM shit if they don't let you go through that narrow hallway because your lower half is a fucking horse, right? Okay, so that's a Centaur entry. So I'm not going to go through what makes these ancestries interesting. Buy the book if you want to do that. But I'm just kind of going through and showing you what's available in here, and we'll speed this up as we, as I find a stride here. But we have Changelings. So if you know Changeling in Shadow of the Demon Lord, then you know Changelings here. They're basically the same ancestry. Then we have Clockworks. Again, if you know them in Shadow of the Weird Wizard or Shadow of the Demon Lord, then you know them here. The thing with Clockworks is that they were all made by the Weird Wizard, at least the initial ones. Subsequent Clockworks may have been created through a factory that the Weird Wizard produced, or maybe somebody who has unlocked the secret to making Clockworks. But the OG Clockworks are all creations of the Weird Wizard. So they do have a homeland. So they can be considered wanderers because they are wandering the borderlands. They could also be considered outcasts because since the Weird Wizard left, then there's no reason for them really to remain in the Forbidden City, and perhaps even some of them were booted out for whatever's going on in the Forbidden City now, which I have an idea, and I know why Clockworks are being booted out of the Forbidden City in my campaign, but it hasn't been said anywhere in the actual Schwab literature as of yet. So that may be something that is presented in the future, but at least in my campaign, I know what's happening in the Forbidden City. It's not good. Okay, so that's the Clockwork entry. Then we have a Diva. Now, what is a Diva? I had no idea what a Diva was. I was thinking it was another angel person, but basically it's an ancient spirit that wants to hitch a ride in your meat suit. And so it's a symbiotic relationship the character accepts, and once they do, then they share their body with this spirit. Okay, so again, this is kind of a wandering type of ancestry. You're not going to find a group of divas necessarily, unless, of course, you know the crystals that hold the essence of these spirits. They could be found in a bunch, I guess, and so a bunch of divas could have sprung from that. But for the most part, divas are not going to be found in groups. You're going to find a diva here and there. So there's no homeland for a diva, in other words. Okay, so that's your diva, and you can be a novice diva if you choose to do so. All right, here's another one that is kind of weird, a demigod. So now you're talking your Hercules, your Achilles, or was he a demigod or was he a, yeah, I think he was a demigod. So anyway, so this is an ancestry, obviously, that is descended from a divine union. So, at one point the gods got freaky with a human, and the result is a demigod. So this gives you an opportunity to play, like I said, Hercules. Okay, enough said about that. It does have a table here for who your divine heritage derives from, which is kind of fun. So let's just pick one here. If your divinity sprung from, say, grandmother spore, fungal growths appear all over your body. You might have jellies on your arms, or a shelf fungus on your torso. Sexy. All right, so that is a demigod. And then we have a Dhampir. So those of you who like playing vampires, this is the closest you're going to get. This is a living vampire. So we're talking about Blade, I guess. It's the best example of a living vampire. So a Dhampir is created when a vampire doesn't slay their victim, and leaving them to recover. But as they recover, the victim takes on some vampiric traits, including their bloodlust. So they have some weaknesses. They can't be out in the sun, otherwise they're considered to be weakened, and that's a pain in the ass. But yeah, so you have fangs, right? You drink blood, you have sunlight weakness, and then if you want to be a novice Dhampir, then you can get some other abilities such as transforming into a swarm of bats, and so on. So interesting if you're into that sort of thing. This does make things challenging for the player and for the GM, because obviously if you're traveling out on the road, this is going to be a huge pain in the ass. But luckily it does say direct sunlight. So if you go into a structure, then at least you're not impaired by the sunlight weakness trait. But you stay away from the open windows, I guess. Huh? I don't know. Anyway, that's that. So then we have the Dragonet. So the Dragonet is descended from dragons, right? And they're miniature dragons. Basically, as you can see here, they fit in a window. They're about 3 feet tall and very intelligent. And they like living amongst the mortal races. So you can find dragonets, just kind of integrating into other societies. So this is an interesting ancestry. I haven't really seen anything like this in other games. So yeah, hopefully one of my players will pick up on this at some point. All right, the next one is a dwarf. All right, so dwarves are dwarves. If you know dwarf in any other setting, then that is what the dwarf is here. So nothing new under the sun. Same with elves. You know, if you know elves in Demon Lord, then these are basically the same. Then we have Fawn, again another import from Demon Lord, and these are descendants of a union between the Horned Lord and the Wild Woman, created the race of Fawn. And all Fawn live in the woodland. So there are Fawn communities. So I'm going to consider this to be a civilized, kind of ancestry, although you probably only find them normally, an adventuring party probably finds them in a small group or maybe individually when they're out in the woods. But anyway, I still consider them to be a civilized society, so you could find their secretive settlements if you are lucky enough. All right, so what else? They consider themselves to be guardians of the wild. All right. Okay, I think that's all I want to focus on there. Then we have the Herons. So these are also an import from Demon Lord. These are cat people. People that transform into, or they are cats that can transform into a humanoid shape. So these are integrated into humanoid settlements, but they are still a separate people. So there could be groups of Heron that coexist with a community that they reside in, just kind of secretly. And I guess a Heron could become an outcast if they're in a pretty tight-knit community that discovers that a weird cat person is living among them. But in other humanoid settlements, then this is more of a secretive integration. All right, then we have goblins. So goblins are goblins. They are a player option in Shadow of the Weird Wizard, but they are still pretty hateful, mischievous little creatures. And so, you can play them as any way you want, but there's a reason why goblins and hobgoblins are separate in this game. They look the same basically, but goblins are vicious and evil, whereas hobgoblins actually like humans, and they're an integrated race. They integrate into humanoid societies. So, but goblins are just wicked, wicked. And most goblins live in Goblin City, so they are a civilized race, although civilized being, air quoted there. The Goblin King is called Oberon, and I don't know if this king is the same as the one that is presented in Shadow of the Demon Lord. I don't think so, because I think the king, the Goblin King in Shadow of the Demon Lord, is modeled after the Goblin King in Labyrinth, which is David Bowie. And I don't think David Bowie is playing both of these campaigns. So Oberon is probably a different sort of Goblin King. I think we'll find out more about that because there is a Goblin Adventure Path that is supposed to be coming out at some point. So we'll be looking forward to that. But at any rate, goblins are creepy little mean creatures, and you should kind of play them that way. And if you want to play a nice goblin, play a hobgoblin. So halflings are halflings. They're wanderers, but they wander in a community. So that's another categorization, I guess. Heron. So these are rabbit folks. Literally rabbit person. You see the picture right there. They are civilized. They have communities. They don't work with metal as a society, but they do create weapons and armor out of other materials. And of course, they can use objects made of metal. They just don't know how to make them themselves. But anyway, you got the rabbit folk, and interesting background here. For whatever reason, they decided to hate the Weird Wizard. And so they were constantly being a pain in the Weird Wizard's ass, even though the Weird Wizard really didn't go out of his way to bother the Heron. The Heron just thought he was like evil incarnate. So there was some kind of weird animosity between the two, and I would assume Heron would also feel that way against the Weird Wizard's constructs, which would be Clockworks. So if you have a Heron character and a Clockwork character, there could be some tension there, at least from the Heron's perspective, because the Heron hate anything having to do with the Weird Wizard. All right, then we have Harpies. So Harpies are, Harpies are presented differently in just about every fantasy setting. Some of them are considered to be fey creatures. Others consider them to be monstrous creatures. Here it looks like they're just kind of it looks like they're kind of just presented as a bird person, and not necessarily an evil, an evil aspect of the Fae, or a demonic entity or anything like that. So anyway, Harpies. If you want to play a flying bird person, you got that here. Here's a Hobgoblin. Like I said earlier, Hobgoblins actually like people. They like being around other humanoid races. They're not mischievous or any of those problematic traits that goblins have. So that is your Hobgoblin. Now, in other games, even Shadow of the Demon Lord had Hobgoblins be different from goblins. In fact, they're hilarious in Shadow of the Demon Lord because they're all identical. But they were in Shadow of the Demon Lord, they're human size. In D&D, they're human size. So again, they're handled differently in different games. In this game, they are just a different version of goblins that get along with people. They have some other differences as well, as you can see in their Hobgoblin traits. But as far as society goes, it's difficult to tell a goblin and a hobgoblin apart just by looking at them. But you can definitely tell when you put them in a room full of valuables. Okay, so that's Hobgoblin. Then we have the Jan. So the Jan are a race that originated in a faraway land. So on the other side of the world, there is a land, and that land is called the Four Kingdoms of the Meridans. So I'm sure we'll hear more about that at some point in the future. But very little is presented here as far as that goes. So people that are characters that are Jan in this campaign are most definitely either wanderers or outcasts, because their homeland is on the opposite side of the world. They have elemental affinities, so you would pick the way that you roll on that if you decide to be a Jan. Okay, let's see what else we have in here. The Naga. All right, so the Naga here are the same as the Naga in Shadow of the Demon Lord. They are actually a starfaring race that just happened to get trapped or shipwrecked on both the Shadow of the Demon Lord world and the Shadow of the Weird Wizard world. So bad luck there, eh? Apparently the Demon Lord is, making it difficult for the Naga to find a place to live. So, but as far as their appearances go and all that, it's pretty much the same. Interesting thing that they have is they have ancient lore, and they have the ability to not really create, but just as a remnant from their starfaring days, they do have access to exotic weaponry like laser guns and stuff like that. That should probably be rare treasure that you find, I would think, in a Naga stronghold. But yeah. Okay, so that was Naga. Then we have Poliwog. Poliwog are frog people. They do have homes in the swamps, and so I would consider them to be fairly civilized. They're amphibious, as you might imagine. And so there you go, you're a frog person. Revenants. So again, those folks that like playing undead or something resembling undead, have another option here. The Dampier was one. This is another one. So you are Revenant. Otherwise, you are the Crow basically, and so you are. You're trying to make amends for, or not make amends, but you're trying to make something right or finish something that wasn't finished before you were killed before your time, right? That's what a Revenant is. Sometimes it's seeking revenge. Sometimes it's proving your innocence. Sometimes it's, finding your long lost son or daughter or whatever. I don't know. It can be whatever you want to come up with, but there is a reason that the Revenant came back. So that is something that the DM and the player is going to have to work through to kind of get that foundational reason why the character is actually living again. All right, Shadowkith. So Shadowkith are like a they're accidentally in this world. So they come from like a shadow realm. I don't know if it's called yeah, they call it the Twilight Lands here, which is basically the shadow, the Upside Down in Stranger Things, the Shadowfell in D&D. It's basically just it's like a mirror image of this world, except all of the life and color sucked out of it. It's all shadow. It's a shadowy realm that kind of mirrors our world, but there are differences. And a character from the Twilight Lands showing up in our world, they're going to be like, everything's so bright, there's so much energy, oh God, very uncomfortable in this world. Okay, so that I guess would present some interesting roleplay opportunities. All right, the Sphinx. So the Sphinx is an interesting race. The first thing when I was reading through this, first thing that came to mind is First thing that came to mind for the Sphinx is Thundercats. So these are another feline race. But these felines they always look like humanoid felines, right? So again, like the Thundercats. Or another analogy would be, and if those of you that remember the Arcana Unearthed from Monty Cook Games, which was a variant 3.5 D&D. And a very interesting game. If you have access to that book, I would definitely check it out. It was a hell of an experiment. I actually ran a short campaign in Arcana Unearthed and Arcana Expanded or Evolved. Arcana Evolved. So yeah. Anyway, I did run a short campaign, and then I liked it. I liked the setting, but at any rate, they had a feline race in that game, and that reminded me here as well. So anyway, you have the Sphinx race, humanoid cat people. Then we have Spriggins. Spriggins are just fae folk that live in the woodlands, and so these are not. Actually, they're not fae folk. They are plant people. Yeah, they are plant people, ambulatory plants. Okay, so the humanoid plant people. There you go. So if you want to play a plant, you got your Spriggin. Then we have Sprites. So Sprites are fairies, and this is typically what you think of a Sprite. Riding a robin. They're tiny fae creatures. So again, have fun with that. This is probably the most interesting and just creative ancestry in this book, right? The Tatter Dealan. So A Tatter Dealan is a creature, humanoid creature that died. But for whatever reason, that creature's soul ended up inhabiting a pile of clothes. And so you are an animated pile of clothes. You're animated by the spirit of a dead person, animating a pile of clothes. So your pile of clothes is basically twisted and shaped into a rough humanoid shape. Well, actually, if you got pants and you got a shirt, you don't have to be twisted. But, it's just kind of, it's just weird. You're a bundle of clothes. There's no actual substance to you. You're a bundle of clothes. And so you're walking around as a bundle of clothes. Now, of course, you still be hurt and all that stuff, but you're just a bundle of clothes. It's so bizarre. So that would be fun to see. I imagine there could be some things that would make this weird. And so there's probably going to be a lot of thinking on your feet for both a player and a character, or a sage, running a game with a Tatter Dealan cleric, Tatter Dealan player character. Blah. Okay, you want to play a fish person, so that's your Triton. Triton is undersea folk. They are humanoids. They breathe water. They're amphibious. And so there you go. Good luck integrating that into a land-based campaign. Sea-based campaign, I can see that working fairly well. Land-based campaign is going to be kind of tough getting a Triton to work well. Okay, Wargs. So Wargs are basically lichens from, that intellectual property. These are humans that can transform into wolves, basically. They are persecuted because people think they're werewolves, and basically they are werewolves. I don't know if they consider themselves to be cursed with lycanthropy, but they are definitely humans that can change into wolves. They do exist in clans, like the lichens. There you go. You want to play a werewolf? Then you got your warg ancestry. Then finally we have the Woodws. So the Woodws are big hulking creatures. So I think of it like Bigfoot, or the big hulking hairy creature in Labyrinth, which I actually think that's what it was modeled after. But anyway, these suckers are big. They are 8 to 9 feet tall, and just big, hairy woodland creatures, right? So that I have a Woodwose character in my campaign. One of my players is running a Woodwose, and so yeah, interesting choice. They are woodland guardians. So yeah, there you go. Okay, so that's pretty much the book. Now, I like this book a lot, but again, if for me, I wish it would have had a little bit more on how they are civilized, or how they are integrated or not integrated, or they talk about that a little bit, but it doesn't go into a whole lot of detail in this book. So I would have liked that. I would have also liked to see the human ancestry get a treatment here, because the human ancestry in Shadow the Weird Wizard is really the only ancestry in that book, and the only thing that humans get, and you don't have a novice path for humans. It's just an ancestry, and in addition, the trait that human ancestry gives you is basically that you can raise 2 different attributes by 1 point at character creation, which is nice. I mean, that is a way to have higher stats than perhaps some of your other ancestries. But you look at some of the traits in this book that some of these ancestries get, and it just starts to seem like the humans got shafted a little bit. So maybe there will be a supplement at some point that gives humans a leg up. But like right now in my current campaign, I have well, I had 4 players. One of them had to drop, and so now I have 3 players. One of them is human, and compared to the other 2, which is a Woodw and a Clockwork, the human's pretty his health is much lower than the other 2. So he's fairly fragile. So anyway, all right. So I wanted to go through this at a high level and just give you an idea of what you can expect in this book. Is it worth getting? Yeah, if you're going to play a Shadow of the Weird Wizard campaign, you definitely need this book. So I would, if you weren't part of the Kickstarter, I would go out to Try Through RPG and pick up a copy. This is a great, and necessary supplement. Now, is it really necessary? No. You could play a completely human-centric Shadow of the Weird Wizard campaign, and if you needed to delve into other ancestries, then those ancestries are presented at a high level in the Secret of the Weird Wizard in the bestiary portion. So, do you really need it? No, but if you're going to run a campaign, I would highly recommend it. Okay, so that is it for today's Shadow of the Weird Wizard video. So I want to thank you all for watching once again, and hopefully I'll be back again with another video at some point. So until then, I need to come up with a catchy weird wizard. I don't feel right saying the same Hail the Demon Lord, since the Demon Lord is not a thing. Well, it's not a thing yet in Shadow of the Weird Wizard, Shadow of the Weird Wizard. So I don't feel good saying, Hail the Demon Lord. So, I need to come up with a good weird wizard, not salutation, but a goodbye. So I'm going to have to work on that. If you have any suggestions, let me know. But anyway, don't get too weird. No, that's stupid. Anyway, I'm out of here. See ya.